Hello, and welcome to Calm and Cozy Stories, a place where everyone can find calm and enchantment beneath the soft glow of the moon, right before drifting off to sleep. Tonight, we invite you on another journey through a captivating story, one that helps cultivate a sense of peace and relaxation. Before we begin, let's take a moment to gently prepare our bodies and minds for a soothing, restorative rest. Make yourself comfortable, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, allow the cares of the day to gradually slip away. It's not always simple to detach from the day's busyness, especially when bedtime approaches. But keep in mind, the less we worry about falling asleep, the easier it is for the mind to release tension. Let the steady rhythm of your breathing carry off any remaining worries, and let the story you're about to hear guide you into deep relaxation. Now, settle in and allow the moonlit atmosphere to softly embrace you. Enjoy this story, and may you drift into peaceful, restful slumber here on Calm and Cozy Stories. In days long faded, a girl named Alara dwelt where the fields met the horizon, sharing a humble life with her mother, father, and a tumble of younger siblings. Her parents, souls of quiet kindness, coaxed a living from the earth, their days shaped by toil and simple provision. Every child contributed, their small hands learning the rhythms of the farmstead. Yet shadows of hardship sometimes stretched long. Alara, being the eldest, shouldered responsibilities beyond her years with a quiet grace. Between the washing, the simmering pots, and the watchful tending of little ones, her spare moments were often consumed by the rhythmic twist of wool into yarn, a vital task for clothing so many. Winter found her nestled by the comforting warmth of the cottage's old stone hearth, a small white cat, a soft curl at her feet, the spindle whispering. But when warmth unfurled across the land, she sought the open air, a change of vista. Alara might be discovered beneath the dappled shade of an oak, or beside the murmuring tongue of a nearby stream, her spindle dancing in her fingers. Accompanied by the sun-drenched air, the flutter of cheerful butterflies, and the sweet chorus of birds, she would hum softly, spinning for as long as daylight allowed, never a murmur of complaint escaping her lips. Her patience a gentle balm for parents and siblings alike, even when weariness settled deep in her bones. One luminous summer afternoon, Alara had carried her spinning outdoors, settling onto the flat, sun-warmed stones encircling the well near their dwelling. The sky was a canvas of early summer brilliance. Bees droned with languid purpose in the flower garden. Her drowsy cat sprawled like spilled cream in the grass nearby. A little way off, her youngest brother and sister sat absorbed in the cottage doorway, constructing intricate patterns from pebbles gathered like tiny treasures. Through the open window drifted the familiar clink and clatter of her mother in the kitchen, orchestrating the evening meal. Lost in the beauty of the day, Alara's fingers moved deftly, spinning thread while a soft song passed her lips, hoping to conjure just a little more precious yarn before the livestock called for her attention. Glancing up, her eyes met those of Master Thorn from the neighboring farm, trudging along the road with his faithful dog. He lifted a hand in weathered greeting. Smiling, Alara lowered her spindle to her lap, raising her own hand in return. Alas, in that fleeting moment, a careless nudge sent the spindle skittering sideways, tumbling from her grasp and vanishing into the dark maw of the well. Ilara lunged, fingers grasping at empty air, too slow to halt its descent. Hoping against hope it had snagged on a stone near the opening, she leaned precariously over the edge, peering into the cool shadows. Nothing. The precious tool remained unseen. Unwilling to concede its loss, she stretched just a fraction further, and then the world tilted, pitching her head first into the well's silent throat. The fall was peculiar, devoid of the expected terror. Instead, a sensation of buoyant sailing through an endless void enveloped her, stone and earth dissolving around her. Time itself seemed to pause, suspended in the profound darkness. Yet, looking toward her feet, she perceived distant twinkling points of light, like nascent stars. They drew no nearer but multiplied, blooming until she soared feet first into what resembled a dazzling, star-strewn firmament. Ilara reached down, yearning to touch the glittering starlight, and suddenly she was inverted, the cosmos wheeling above her. A rushing filled her ears, the roar of a hidden river, accompanied by a cool current of air, washing over her skin. Down, down she drifted, an immense drowsiness clouding her vision. Beyond that, oblivion claimed her memory. When awareness returned, she lay nestled in a meadow vibrant with wildflowers, gazing up at an uninterrupted expanse of azure sky. Sitting up, she scanned her surroundings. No well yawned above or beside her. It was as if she had simply materialized in this new realm, testing limbs and finding herself whole, even wonderfully refreshed, as from a long, untroubled slumber. Ilara stood. The verdant field stretched into the distance, embraced on all sides by woodland. Centered in this expanse stood a small house, a wisp of smoke curling from its chimney. No soul, human or animal, stirred in the yard, utterly curious. One certainty anchored her. Remaining static in this field was no solution. The little house represented the sole prospect of aid. Resolutely, she began walking towards it, her path weaving through tall grasses where delicate butterflies danced on unseen currents. Reaching the dwelling, she found the front door standing ajar. Hesitant to intrude, she circled the exterior cautiously. Vacant. Returning to the open doorway, she called into the dim interior. "Hello? Is anyone present?" Silence answered. As her eyes adjusted, she discerned a large oven radiating warmth from a banked fire. A table nearby lay strewn with blossoms. Barrels, likely holding provisions, stood clustered in a corner. It bore the unmistakable signs of a bakery. While Ilara pondered her next move, faint, melodic voices startled her, seeming to emanate from the vicinity of the oven. Believing her senses tricked her, she edged closer, tilting her head. Clearer now, the sound resolved into words. "Greetings. Release us from the oven. Our baking is complete for the celebration." She recoiled. Surely she'd struck her head in the fall. How could bread converse from within an oven? Yet the sweet, chiming voices persisted. "Greetings. Release us from the oven. Our baking is complete for the celebration." A quandary indeed, Ilara mused. To trespass in a stranger's home and tamper with their baking felt deeply improper. Yet the baker would surely appreciate intervention if their loaves risked incineration. Ultimately, Ilara's inherent practicality won out. Retrieving the long wooden paddle leaning beside the oven, she eased the door open. Inside, a row of beautiful, perfectly golden loaves rested. With practiced movements, she used the paddle to transfer them onto the table to cool, then closed the oven door and replaced the tool. Hands on hips, she surveyed the cooling bread with quiet satisfaction. She couldn't linger. Hopefully, the baker's return would bring pleasure, not annoyance, at finding the bread saved, especially with a feast imminent. A less scrupulous person might have claimed a loaf as small recompense, but Ilara left the bounty untouched. With some reluctance, she departed the cottage, now fragrant with the glorious aroma of fresh baking. No help was forthcoming here. She must press on. Outside the small house, a faintly trodden path beckoned, leading towards the trees, suggesting frequent passage. Following this trail seemed the most logical course, so she turned her steps toward the woods. It was a welcoming forest, not dense or forbidding. Sunlight filtered through the gently rustling canopy, pooling in luminous patches on the mossy ground. Squirrels performed arboreal acrobatics overhead, and birdsong filled the air with cheerful melodies. The path meandered pleasantly, winding across diminutive streams and around lichen-painted tree trunks. Ilara walked, wondering at her destination, yet her heart remained light. She found herself humming again, enjoying the sylvan tranquility. After some time, the path led her into a sun-dappled grove of apple trees. Weariness began to weigh on her, so she sank down beneath one of the trees to rest. Leaning her head against the rough bark, she closed her eyes, absorbing the forest's subtle symphony. The birds' trills, the insects' drone, the occasional scurry of a squirrel through the leaves. Sleep hovered close, but just as she drifted towards its edge, voices stirred her. Opening her eyes, she listened intently. The sounds coalesced into words. Greetings. We are burdened with fruit. Shake our branches that the ripe apples may fall for the harvest. Having already encountered talking bread, Ilara found herself more receptive to this new marvel in a day brimming with strangeness. With no pressing destination, she readily complied. Moving from tree to tree, she shook each trunk diligently until a cascade of apples tumbled to the ground. Not one to leave disarray, Ilara gathered the fallen fruit into the apron of her skirt, then carefully arranged them in neat piles at the base of each tree, taking care not to bruise a single one. Feeling her task in the orchard complete, she turned and followed the trail onward, naturally refraining from taking any apples. The harvest, after all, was not hers. Soon after leaving the apple grove, a profound tiredness settled over Ilara. She couldn't gauge how long she'd walked, but the slanted light filtering through the trees and her own lengthening shadow signaled the afternoon's decline. Nightfall wasn't far off. Worry pricked at her. Where was she going? Would she find shelter? As these anxieties surfaced, the path finally emerged from the woods. Before her, a languid river coiled through a wide clearing. Beyond it, mountains rose against the horizon. The beauty of the scene stole her breath. Down by the riverbank nestled a tidy little cottage, enclosed by a white picket fence. Impressive garden beds flourished around it, and goats and sheep grazed peacefully nearby. A snowy white eiderdown hung airing on a long clothesline. A delicate curl of smoke ascended from the stone chimney, dissolving into the pink and gold tapestry of the evening sky. Summoning her courage, Ilara walked towards this welcoming sight. Hope fluttered within her, perhaps a morsel of food, a place near the hearth for the night. She reached the gate, opened it carefully, stepped through, and secured the latch behind her. A gray stone path guided her between burgeoning garden beds to the cottage's arched front door, painted a cheerful cherry red. Pausing briefly, she knocked. A square peephole slid open slightly below her eye level, catching her off guard. Bending slightly, she peered into the opening and met an inquisitive gaze. "May I assist you?" a woman's voice inquired, tinged with caution. "Yes. Well, my name is Ilara, and I find myself quite lost," Ilara began hesitantly. "I was hoping, might you spare a little food, and perhaps offer a spot, any place really, where I could rest for the night?" The eye observed her for what felt like an age. Then the peephole snapped shut, and the entire door swung inward. Standing there was a kindly-faced older woman. She wore simple, homespun garments beneath a practical apron. Her long white hair swept back into a neat, sensible bun. Squinting at Ilara, she reached into her apron pocket and settled a whimsical pair of wire-rimmed spectacles onto her nose. Then her face broke into a broad smile. "Well, my dear," the woman said, her voice warmer now, "I don't often receive company here. If you could lend a hand with a few chores about the place, I'd be most grateful and happy to share what little I possess in return." Relief washed over Ilara. "Oh, yes," she replied earnestly. "I'm quite adept at chores, and I would be deeply thankful for your hospitality." "Excellent," the woman responded. "Best come inside then. It grows late, and you need sustenance and rest. You can begin helping tomorrow. There's ample work to be done." Then, realizing her omission, she added, "A pleasure to meet you, Ilara. You may call me Dame Holla." Dame Holly turned, beckoning Ilara to follow. Ilara stepped over the threshold into a space barely taller than herself, closing the door behind her. The interior comprised a single large room. To her left stood a table and 2 chairs. Kitchen implements gleamed on a short counter nearby. Across the room, a bed waited, presumably the usual resting place for the eiderdown she'd seen outside. 2 rocking chairs flanked the hearth. A sewing basket nestled between them. Over the large stone fireplace, a pot simmered, releasing the most wonderful aroma of stew Ilara had ever encountered. A sharp pang reminded her of her hunger after the long day's journey. She didn't wait long. Dame Holly settled her near the fire and served a generous bowl of the hearty stew. They ate companionably in the flickering firelight as twilight deepened outside. After the meal, Dame Hole requested she fetch the eiderdown from the line. "No need to shake it," she instructed. "I attended to that this morning." Ilara ventured into the garden's deepening shadows, retrieved the plush eiderdown, and brought it inside to place upon the bed. Afterwards, she helped Dame Hole wash the dishes and tidy the kitchen. Without probing questions about Ilara's origins or destination, the kind old woman produced a blanket and pillow from a wooden chest and prepared a bed for the weary girl near the fire's warmth. "Sleep now," Dame Holly said gently. "We shall be busy come morning." The fire's dancing flames were a comforting, hypnotic presence. Gratefully, Ilara lay down on the makeshift bed. The distant hoot of an owl or the soft bleating of a goat drifted through the night air. Within moments, she sank into a profound, dreamless sleep. Ilara awoke with the sun, feeling more rested than she could ever recall. Following a simple breakfast, she eagerly undertook the tasks Dame Holly assigned. Many were familiar echoes of her farm life: tending goats, sheep, and chickens, washing dishes, cleaning the cottage. Dame Hall expressed delight at having young, capable hands assisting her. Age was clearly making it harder for her to manage the homestead alone. With Ilara's enthusiastic help, the cottage soon gleamed, neat as a newly shelled pea. One particular chore Dame Holla emphasized above all others. "Each day," she instructed Ilara, her tone serious, "you must take the eiderdown from my bed, carry it outside, and shake it with great vigor. Shake until the small feathers fly free, restoring its lightness and loft. This is of utmost importance. Can you manage that?" Ilara nodded solemnly, accepting the instructions without question. Daily, she shook and shook the eiderdown, tiny feathers catching the breeze, some drifting high into the sky, others settling nearby like soft snow. Afterwards, she would hang the pristine white quilt back on the line to air until evening descended once more. Ilara did not depart after that first day. Possessing no other destination, and finding genuine contentment in assisting Dame Holly, she stayed. Happily, the old woman cherished the company and the help. Days melted into weeks, settling into a comfortable, companionable rhythm. Several weeks after Ilara's arrival, Dame Holla introduced a new responsibility. "I have another vital task for you. Take my watering can," she said, indicating a large, spouted vessel in the corner, "and water my garden thoroughly. Ensure no patch is missed. Shower the water generously, coaxing the seeds into a beautiful harvest." Ilara embraced this duty as requested. Countless trips she made, filling the can, ensuring a drenching shower reached every corner of the garden plots. This became a daily ritual, and soon a magnificent garden emerged. In one section, vibrant tulips, irises, and daffodils unfurled their colors. In another, lettuces, tender green onions, cabbages, and crisp radishes pushed through the earth. Dame Holle possessed a remarkable affinity for growing things. Ilara's watering seemed all that was needed for the garden to flourish. With so much purposeful activity filling her days at Dame Holle's cottage, time slipped by unnoticed, and Ilara felt a deep sense of peace. However, after many months had passed, a pensiveness began to shadow her. She grew quieter during their evening fireside chats, her gaze often drifting into the distance while mending. Dame Holle, perceptive as ever, gently inquired what troubled her. "Oh, Dame Holle, your kindness has been a haven, and I truly cherish helping you here," Ilara confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "But the truth is, I have begun to miss my family profoundly. I ache for home, yet I see no path back to them. Homesickness weighs heavily, and I wish constantly that I could find my way back up the well where my spindle fell." Dame Holle listened with quiet sympathy. Then, reaching into the sewing basket beside her chair, she produced the very spindle Ilara had lost that fateful day. Astonishment rendered Ilara speechless for a moment. "My spindle! However did you come by it?" she finally breathed. Dame Holle's eyes, the color of moss agate, twinkled merrily behind her spectacles. "It landed in my garden, my dear, for I am the nexus between your world and this. Nothing transpires here unknown to me." Ilara leaned forward, taking the familiar wooden tool into her hands. "But then, you must know the way home. Can you guide me?" Dame Holle leaned back in her rocker, folding her hands serenely in her lap, her smile gentle as she regarded Ilara. "You are a good soul, Ilara, and your absence will be felt. But it is right that you return to your kin now. Take one more night of peaceful rest, and I shall set you on your path at first light." Ilara's heart swelled with such happiness, she doubted sleep would come, yet she was mistaken. Pocketing her long-lost spindle with joyous relief, she settled onto her soft pallet by the fire, one last time. In the singular magic of Dame Holle's cottage, the crackling flames and the owl's nocturnal calls once again lulled her swiftly into deep, restorative slumber. When the sun painted the horizon, Ilara folded her bedding neatly, placing it within the wooden chest. Then she carried Dame Holle's eiderdown outside for its final vigorous shaking before hanging it upon the line. "My thanks, dear child," the old woman said, emerging from the cottage bearing a woven basket. "This is for you." Lifting the lid, Ilara discovered the basket brimming with beautiful ripe apples and loaves of warm, freshly baked bread. Dame Holle continued, her voice imbued with warmth. "During your time here, your help has been immeasurable. You rescued the baking when the oven called, and I was occupied elsewhere. You gathered the apples when the trees groaned under their weight, and my hands were full. Each day, you faithfully shook the eider down until feathers danced on the air. And finally, you nurtured my garden with water until it thrived. Humbled by this praise, Ilara shook her head slightly. But those were simple duties anyone could have performed. The old woman smiled kindly. Those ordinary tasks, Ilara, were the very weaving of the seasons. Tending the oven and its bread yields the glorious warmth of summer days. Shaking the trees heralds the arrival of autumn. Every time you sent feathers flying from my eider down, exquisite snowflakes drifted down upon your world. And when you diligently watered my garden, you summoned the life that begins the cycle anew. She gestured towards the basket now resting on Ilara's arm. This basket shall remain ever full. Your family will share in the bounty earned by your diligence. You took no bread when hungry. You ate no apples from the harvest. Now, I give them freely to you. Ilara felt tears well, moved by this extraordinary gift that promised comfort and sustenance for her family for years to come. She embraced Dame Holle tightly, thanking her with a full heart. Then, remembering the crucial detail, she asked, "Where must I go to find the path back? Out of the well." Dame Holly turned, gesturing towards the flowing river. "You arrived through water, and so shall you return. Follow the river upstream. After several hours' walk, you will reach a great bridge. Cross over it, and when your feet touch the far bank, you will find yourself home once more." Ilara asked wistfully, "Will I ever be able to return to see you again?" Dame Hall clucked her tongue with gentle sympathy. "No, my child. Your journey here was a singular event, not to be repeated. Yet, I promise you this. When you feel the sun's warmth upon your face, when you watch the apples ripen and fall, when you see snowflakes drift silently upon the world, when you hear the soft rain nourishing your spring garden, then you will know I am near." Ilara embraced Dame Holle one last time, then passed through the little white gate. She turned to wave as she made her way down to the river bank and began her journey upstream. Before long, Dame Holle's sweet cottage seemed to dissolve into the distance, vanishing as if it had only ever been a dream. Ilara walked beside the river for what felt like many hours. It was a beautiful waterway, sometimes rushing over smooth stones in foaming rapids, sometimes cascading in sparkling waterfalls. When the sun reached its zenith, she paused beneath a shady tree to eat, breaking off a piece of the fragrant bread and biting into a crisp, juicy apple from her magical basket. They tasted divine. Continuing onward as the afternoon shadows lengthened, she finally spied it in the distance. A stone bridge arching gracefully across the entire breadth of the river, looking ancient and enduring. Recognizing her landmark, Ilara navigated the tall grasses at the water's edge and stepped onto the bridge with a hesitant heart, half expecting some enchantment. Nothing occurred as she proceeded across the worn stones. Reaching the midpoint, she paused, set down her basket, and looked back the way she had come. Dame Holle's cottage was lost to sight, but the panorama was breathtaking. The river snaking towards the horizon, flanked by woodland and the rising mountain. Gazing down, she saw the river flowing deep and quiet beneath her. Ilara took one final look at the cloudless sky above, then retrieved her basket and walked towards the bridge's end. As she reached the far side, she held her breath. One foot landed on the bank beyond the bridge. Still nothing. A flicker of nervousness touched her. Perhaps the magic wouldn't hold. Closing her eyes, tightening her grip on the basket handle, she took the final step. A rushing sound filled her ears, the roar of a river, and a cool current of air washed over her, echoing the sensation of her descent into the well. When she opened her eyes again, she was standing in the familiar yard of her home. A joyous clamor erupted as her family rushed out to greet her. Time, it transpired, had flowed onward in her absence. Many months had indeed passed. Ilara was enveloped in happy embraces, everyone eager to hug their beloved girl and hear the tale of her disappearance. For her part, Ilara felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over her. That evening, by the familiar hearth, she recounted the wondrous story of Dame Hull to her rapt siblings. Afterwards, the entire family shared a hearty meal, thanks to the miraculous basket of bread and apples, which, true to Dame Hull's word, never seemed to empty. Ilara resumed her place within the family, taking up her chores once more, but now with a deeper appreciation, understanding firsthand how honest effort truly turned the wheels of the world. And from that day forward, whenever Ilara heard the rain drumming softly on the roof, or sat spinning by the window watching feathery snowflakes drift lazily to earth, she smiled, knowing that somewhere Dame Hull was busy, and her eiderdown was being fluffed and aired exactly as it should be. Cobblestones hum beneath your feet, a rhythmic counterpoint to the distant chime that just shivered through the air. Nearby, the gentle percussion of ceramic kissing saucer drifts from a sidewalk cafe, a soothing murmur against the narrow Bordeaux lane. No automobiles mar this picturesque artery. It pulses instead with pedestrians, the occasional whirring bicycle, and the contented buzz of cafe patrons, their conversation a low thrum beneath the bell's fading echo. You navigate this charming passage toward a prearranged meeting, your second day delving into the soul of this historic French city, with Etienne, your local cicerone. That resonant sound was no mere coincidence. It emanated from your very destination, the rendezvous point itself, the grosse cloche, the big bell, a venerable sentinel among France's oldest belfries, stands as one of the city's most treasured icons. Gaze upward, framed dramatically at the street's end, flanked by elegant buildings. The bell tower materializes. It echoes the form of a magnificent medieval gatehouse encountered earlier, conjuring images of a slender fairy tale fortress, a formidable rectangle of time-worn stone, crested with rounded turrets, its base pierced by an imposing archway, a true gateway. And a gateway it was, you recall, one portal piercing the defensive ramparts that encircled Bordeaux during the turbulent Middle Ages, a time when cities, like precious jewels, required fortified settings. Yet, this structure possesses distinct nuances. Most strikingly, suspended within an aperture 2/3 up its height, hangs an enormous bell. The very bronze behemoth whose ceremonial monthly toll just sent vibrations rippling through the quarter. Its peal conveniently marks your appointment with Etienne, who, with thoughtful foresight, arranged your meeting time to coincide with this auditory spectacle, experienced from the protective embrace of a few blocks' distance. Approaching the solid stone threshold, you spot him lingering in the cool shadows just beyond the arch, his stance a blend of easy repose and keen readiness. Etienne greets you with genuine warmth, his eyes bright, reflecting the appreciation painting your own features. A spark ignites within him, the palpable eagerness to share his passion, the layered history of his cherished city. Following brief pleasantries, he slips effortlessly into his element, spinning narratives. He is a maestro, weaving historical threads and anecdotal details into a vibrant tapestry of human experience that flickers to life in your mind's theater. His finger gestures skyward, towards the weather vane crowning the edifice. A lion, he explains, emblem of the English monarchy. This gatehouse, he elaborates, arose during Bordeaux's tenure under the English crown. You remember the history. The city, once heart of the independent Duchy of Aquitaine, passed into English dominion when its Duchess, Eleanor, wed the heir to England's throne. 3 centuries this connection endured, finally dissolving into French sovereignty after the protracted conflict known as the 100 Years' War. Though a defensive bastion, Etienne imparts with a smile. The townsfolk centuries ago sometimes dubbed it the Golden Lion Hotel, a playful nod to the regal weather vane. It is with such intimate details, delivered in his melodic cadence, that your guide so thoroughly captivates. Even now, you can almost hear the spectral echoes of boisterous guardsmen's laughter ricocheting off the ancient stones. Together, you step into the archway's cool embrace. Set into the yellowish stone, an engraved plaque catches your eye, and Etienne draws your attention to it. It offers a translation of the Latin inscription borne by the giant bell itself, a fanciful litany of its manifold duties. Etienne recites his own interpretation, his voice soft. I summon to arms, I mark the days, I toll the hours, I banish the storm, I chime for feasts, I cry out the fire. And so it did. Across bygone eras, its voice alerting citizens to imminent attack or the creeping danger of flames. Emerging from the archway onto the opposite side, you step back into the sun's warming caress. Before you lies a narrow stretch of pedestrian way, terminating where a broader, modern avenue begins. There, a current of automobiles flows across contemporary asphalt, carrying Bordeaux's inhabitants onward. Today, Etienne clarifies, the bell's voice is reserved for select ceremonial moments, including noon on the first Sunday of each month. Its potent clangor also resounds on New Year's Day and 4 other significant dates. 3 commemorate the World Wars, conflicts waged on this very soil, casting long shadows over recent memory. November 11th, Armistice Day, May 8th, Victory in Europe Day, and August 28th, Bordeaux's liberation. The 4th is July 14th, Bastille Day, celebrating the dawn of the French Revolution, the fall of monarchy, and the eventual rise of the Republic. The gentle susurrus of traffic from the modern street behind infiltrates your awareness as you absorb these facts. Warm sunlight instills a sense of contented tranquility. Your thoughts drifting pleasantly. History feels almost tactile here, a palpable continuum where antiquity and modernity coexist in surprising harmony. Low metal bollards demarcate the car-free zone where you stand from the bustling road. Retractable barriers, for authorized access. Here, stone pavers form an alluringly archaic pattern underfoot, a stark contrast to the asphalt beyond. Nearby, a woman captures a photograph of 2 smiling children posed before the bell tower. A pair of young people, perhaps students, amble past, one leisurely wheeling a blue bicycle, unhurried. Your gaze follows them, snagging on an unnoticed detail. A dozen or more colorful bicycles parked neatly along the pedestrian block, arrayed before a shop entrance, likely a cycle store, lending a charmingly quotidian air to this venerable space. The woman and children conclude their photo shoot, their happy chatter fading as they skip away. Beside you, Etienne speaks again. Like the gatehouse, the bell itself holds a chronicle, he murmurs. Or rather, the bells, plural, for many have hung within this ancient monument across the centuries. Roughly 500 years ago, shortly after Bordeaux swore fealty to France, a French king confiscated the bell, punishing the city for rebellion. Years later, it was reinstated as a reward for pacified conduct. That particular bell, victim of royal pique, is long vanished. The current resident, though no newcomer, was cast in 1775, on the cusp of American independence. Now, Etienne guides you away from this medieval echo, towards a more contemporary vista. You turn, facing the asphalt river and its vehicular flow. This avenue is broader than the serpentine lanes of the old quarter, flanked by generous sidewalks. It embodies the dynamic pulse of a living city, though vestiges of the past remain ubiquitous. Elegant buildings of warm-hued stone, adorned with wrought iron balconies, line the thoroughfare, reminiscent of the Parisian architecture etched in the popular imagination of French urbanity. Mature, leafy trees cast dappled shade across the pavements. You stroll beneath this pleasant canopy, observing passers-by while admiring the grand facades. You pause before one structure, featuring large rectangular windows, screened by picturesque iron grills. Its stone face is embellished with ornate carvings. Twin columns flank an enormous arched entranceway, framing double doors of polished wood, intricately carved. You linger, captivated by its beauty. Above this magnificent portal, elegant letters incised in the stone proclaim, Université de Bordeaux. A small gasp escapes you at the sheer loveliness of this bastion of learning. Then, you move on, Etienne leading towards the next chapter of your exploration. There is no rush. Both of you understand that simply traversing these timeless streets, observing, absorbing, is integral to the experience. Your breathing finds a gentle rhythm, aligning with Etienne's stride as you fall into companionable step. Soon, you arrive at Rue Sainte-Catherine, renowned as Europe's longest pedestrian thoroughfare. Turning onto it, you are instantly enveloped by its potent charm. A delightful, bustling shopping street, it teems with people, some intent on errands, others indulging in leisurely promenades. An undeniable air of enjoyment permeates the crowd. How could it be otherwise? The street's intrinsic allure rivals the magnetic pull of its enticing shops. Glossy, beige, diamond-shaped tiles pave the way, bordered by contrasting square gray ones. Footsteps create a pleasing shuffle on the polished surface, a symphony accompanying the mingling voices around you. A young woman glides past, shopping bags dangling from one arm, a vibrant bouquet clutched in the other. From the opposite direction approaches an elderly gentleman, a long, slender baguette protruding from a curious cloth bag slung over his shoulder, a bag whose narrow dimensions betray its singular, dedicated purpose. You proceed along this captivating street until another imposing archway looms ahead, marking Rue Sainte Catherine's terminus. It differs significantly from the Grosse Cloche, where your day's journey began. Its vault arches much higher, unencumbered by a castle-like medieval frame. This is a triumphal arch, erected in the 18th century after the ancient city walls were dismantled. Through its opening, perfectly framed, stands a tall, slender obelisk, presiding over a vast plaza. This, Etienne announces, is the Place de la Victoire, Victory Square. Passing beneath the impressive arch, you step onto an immense cobblestone expanse. White stones form diamond patterns, radiating outward from the central obelisk. This intriguing monument is crafted from so-called red marble, now sun-bleached to a pinkish hue. Facing away from it rests a bronze statue of an enormous turtle. Both obelisk and turtle, Etienne explains, are relatively modern additions, honoring the pivotal role of Bordeaux's wine industry. The turtle symbolizes the industry's slow, steady evolution, since Romans introduced choice vines millennia ago. In ages past, this sprawling open space served as fairgrounds just outside the city walls. Today, it thrives with people strolling, lounging at the obelisk's base. A cluster of youths engages in animated conversation nearby. Several cyclists glide smoothly across the cobbles. Etienne suggests a pause, proposing refreshments at a cafe bordering the square. You readily assent. He leads you to a neat row of attractive chairs, shaded by large red umbrellas. You sink into one, its woven vinyl offering comfortable support. A waiter, immaculate apron cinched at his waist, materializes. You order a menthe à l'eau. This invigorating concoction of sweet mint syrup and chilled mineral water is a personal favorite. You cherish its crisp freshness, especially on a warm afternoon like this. But more profoundly, you adore its distinctiveness. It embodies the south of France viscerally, instantly conjuring the region's magic for all your senses. The waiter returns with your drink in a tall, slender glass. The liquid within glows a bright Kelly green. Condensation frosts the exterior. An agreeable minty fragrance greets your nostrils. You inhale deeply. A sip sends coolness across your tongue. From surrounding tables, a polyglot murmur rises, voices from across the globe mingling in the afternoon air. You allow your eyes to close momentarily, listening. The diverse languages seem to coalesce into a single human tongue, one you fancy you can almost decipher. French flows from multiple directions, naturally. Nearby, a cascade of what sounds like Italian. You catch Bordeaux, uttered with near reverence. Further off, a snatch of English praises the Grand Plaza. From another direction drift the melodic tones of a Scandinavian language. Woven through these disparate voices runs a common thread: enthusiasm, hope, admiration, a shared awe for the beauty of human creation surrounding you all. It is this undercurrent, this collective energy, that forms the unified expression you imagine understanding. You feel its meaning, its emotion, resonate deep within. It reflects the human experience binding these individuals from distant lands, and binding them also to all those who walked here before, whose stories saturate the very stones. You inhale slowly, acknowledging your connection to them all with a profound certainty that fills your being. You feel unified with the world around you, adrift, yet anchored in the vast sweep of time. And then you exhale, utterly serene in this place, this moment, immersed in the unfolding story of Bordeaux.